All right, so let's get into our weekly trading outlook. You know the drills. We're looking for a sweep of liquidity. All right, a break of structure, retracement, second break of structure. So here becomes what's our POI. All right, we had our first sweep of transactional liquidity to give us what? Point A. And then our structural liquidity, point B. All right. Point A. Okay. And where price is coming from before tapping our POI as what? Our point C. So basically price has to come here and then our target is here. All right. This is the model that I trade. So this is basically what we'll be looking out for in our weekly outlook. All right, so this is type A. And then we have what's the type B. Those who have been following me for a while should know this by now. Okay, so the type B. Same thing, but a little slight difference. All right, we have what? A sweep of liquidity. Then price has to do what? Form our structural liquidity before eventually breaking the structure. This is our type B. All right, this is just the difference. Price has to form structural liquidity before breaking down the full structure. So we have our sweep here, which can give us what? Our point A. All right, and then our structural liquidity, our point B. And then so we have what? An inner break of structure before eventually breaking the full structure. So we're saying that price has to come here. We use any supply zone now to get our entry. All right, so price has to do what? Come here, tap our supply zone, and then boom to the downside. So this is type A. For the type A, we have what? A break of structure first before forming our structural liquidity and then breaking the whole structure. So this is the model that I trade. All right, same for the downtrend. Sorry, same for the uptrend, right? We have what? A sweep. All right, this is the type B now. Form structural liquidity, and then price has to do what? Price has to come here and invert this back. So price has to come here. Price has to come here and then to the downside. All right, and then C is our target. So it's as simple as this. For an uptrend, price has to do what? Come here and then boom to the upside. Price has to come here, boom to the upside. So this is our type A, and then this is our type B. So let's get into the charts. All right. For last week, I told you guys to still hold NZDJPY. So let's see what's happening there first before we do anything. Okay, so this is the type B. We had our sweep, and then structural liquidity forms first before eventually breaking the whole structure. All right, so I gave this trade when price was still around there, and you can see that we're still in profit. The market has opened, and then we're still holding this. All right, this is our target. C is our target. But of course, we have to put an eye on the market so that in case we see any exit pattern, we have to exit the trade. All right, but this is our full take profit. Okay, I believe this is the only trade that I have on what currency pairs. Let's see. Okay, yeah, CADCHF. CHF. Okay, I have a trade here as well. Okay, let's use this. First of all, you know the drill. We have to look for what's our top-down analysis. All right, so for CADCHF, we had our sweep. All right, and then this becomes what our point A. And then we had our break of structure first before price retraced and form what's our structural liquidity. So here becomes our structural liquidity and then our other break of structure. So this is the type A of my setup, and it is what the A plus setup. All right, so let's label this as A. All right, and then we have B, which is structural liquidity. And then where price is coming from before taking out RB becomes our target. So this is our target. All right, so price has to come back here, tap on it, and then price is heading here. So this is our top-down analysis. We have to go to the higher time frame, get same structure, and then go to the lower time frame and get entries. It's just simple. Something like this. All right, so we have our sweep, break of structure now, and then 50% retracement, and then break structure. So break structure. So price has to tap here and then proceeding here. All right, so once we have something like this, and then a sweep, and then price is doing what's heading to our target, which is here now. In this trade, we have to go to the lower time frame, the 1 hour, 30 minutes, and all that. And then we find an entry and then follow the trend of the market. That's basically how I did it. So now I will have to look for what same setup, either the type A or the type B. So I have to look for what a sweep like this, and then a break of structure, 50% retracement, boom. So I have to look for structures like this that are yet to play out following a trend. All right. So following the trend. So I just mark out this and then this becomes my entry. I will not be entering the trade from the top-down analysis. I will be entering from my POI on the 1 hour, 30 minutes, and sometimes the 4 hours. All right. Take, for example, synthetic indices. Most of the trades, the top-down analysis might be on the monthly time frame. So my entries will be on the 1 hour, 4 hours, and all that. Okay, so let's remove this and get back to our trade. So we had our top-down analysis that's coming from here. All right, and then our points A, our point B now. This is our first break of structure, and then second break of structure. And then this becomes what's our target. So now we have a top-down analysis. We have to do what? Go to the lower time frame and then check for what? For entries. All right, so let's see what we got. Okay, I can use this as my first entry. All right. I can use this, but this setup is not clear, so I won't be entering from here. All right. So I won't be entering from here. I don't like the setup. A plus setup only, please. So I guess we have something else from the market. All right, so let's see what we have. Okay, we have something here that we can look out for. So let's remove this. We already know where price is coming from and where price is going to. So we have we have something like this. Yes. And this. Yeah. So price has to do what? Come into our supply zone and then boom to the downside. So we have our stop loss few pips below A and then our targets at C. All right. So if you see any entry confirmation, you can enter. All right. So this is a POI. Remember, you need to have a valid confirmation before you can enter any trade. So you have to start looking for entry confirmations. All right. Once price gets here, wait for your entry and then enter with here as your words, as your target. Okay. Okay. So that's the two pairs that I'm waiting for. NZDJPY, we're still holding. All right. So we see what happens. But for now, we're still in profits. Okay. So let's check synthetic indices. Remember, we're looking out for these what structures. All right. We're looking out for the structures. The type A and then the type B. All right. So for these 25, 25. All right, so for V25, the trade, this pair is coming from a weekly time frame POI that started somewhere here. All right, and it's headed to, I guess, 1.5 something. All right, so it's headed to somewhere here. You know, for synthetic indices, this chart ends at 24 hours, so you have to do the analysis on your MT5. All right, you have to do the analysis on MT5. There's a trade that I'm waiting for here, although it's a low probability trade. It's a trade on the 15 minutes, and I don't usually trade on the 15 minutes. I trade on the 1 hour, but it's low probability. And if I see a confirmation that is very, very good, I can risk on it. All right, so we had our sweep. All right, and then we had what? A break of structure. Now, this is type A setup, a break of structure there, price retrace, and then give us our point B. So this is our other break of structure. Right, so price has to give what? A valid confirmation. All right, and this one is a low probability setup, so I need to wait for a valid confirmation. Either now I'll be waiting for the evening star with an indecision candle. All right, I'll be waiting for something like this. Something like this. Something like this. All right, something like this. Dodging, and then a red candle. All right. I'll be waiting for, don't mind my colors, but I'll be waiting for something like this to form here before I enter this trade. All right. So if you want to do this top down analysis, you can go to the weekly time frame and then look for our structures, and then you see the top down analysis. But price is coming down from here. It's a sell trend. All right. Price is coming down from here, and it's headed to somewhere around around here, 1.5 something something. Check it on your notifier when you see it. Okay, so we're waiting to see a valid confirmation, and then we engage. All right. I do post trades as they play out on my TikTok, so can give us a follow. Sammy Essay. Let me type that here. All right, Sammy Essay. All right, so you can search it on TikTok and then give us a follow. All right, so we have V100 here that I'm still looking out for. although there is no POI right now, but we have a sweep top-down analysis. All right. In my last week's weekly outlook, I gave out a trade on this. All right, I did the top-down analysis, so it's not new to people that have been on this channel. All right, so we had our top-down analysis from here, and then price is headed here. All right, so let's do it together for people that are just watching for the first time. This is our sweep. All right, so price broke structure first, and then we had our 50% retracement. So we had this, and then this becomes what's our A. All right, so we have A, we have B, and then we have what C, where price is coming from before sweeping out our structural liquidity. All right, so we have this, and then price is currently heading here. So you know what we're waiting for? We're waiting for a setup that would be what, like this, a sweep. All right, sorry, something not like this. Let me do this. All right, we're waiting for something like this. A sweep now. Break of structure. Another sweep. Another liquidity, and then a break of structure. So here becomes our POI. Here, last sweep. So here becomes our POI. So here becomes our POI, and then our entry will be here, and then our targets will be here, not here. All right, so we're waiting for something like this on V100, but it's not, it has not given anything like that yet. So we just wait it out. All right, so those are the pairs that I'm basically looking out for this week. All right, if there are others, probably I'll post them as the week goes by. All right, so look out for these two. If you have a valid confirmation on this V25, you can enter. All right, you can enter. All right, but if you don't have a valid confirmation like this, there's no need for entry. And then we're still holding what NZDJPY, and then we're looking to see what happens on what CADCHF. So I still have other pairs I'm looking at as well, like the like V51s, V75s, and some other pairs. All right. So if you see something sweet, I will update it on my channel as well. All right. You can search my channel on Telegram, same name, SAMMYY_SA. Right. And then you see that I post daily setups that I want to take and all that. So I have no good pairs for this week, but let's see how the week goes. All right. Remember, if you had losses last week, before you enter this week, try to study the losses that you had last week so that you enter this week with a very good mindset to win. All right. And then learn confirmations, because I don't enter any trade without confirmation. As a matter of fact, I don't set limits. I wait for a valid confirmation before I enter. All right. And then I have my exit strategy that I use as well. Okay. So see you guys maybe next week or during the week. All right. So peace out, guys.